Well, the first time that my wife and I noticed it, we came in from Birmingham on a Sunday afternoon, and those big tired trucks with the tanks on the back were just arriving. And they were stopped at the road out there. And I said, my God, Sheila, what is that stinks? And I said, it's got to be those trucks there.
My husband, he's a firefighter, and in his line of work, he's had to recover deceased bodies, and he described it worse than a deceased body. I've never smelled that smell before, thank goodness, but it was really bad.
The product that we're talking about here is animal rotted flesh. And if you can imagine a dead animal on the side of the road, imagine tanker trucks of that smell.
And it's a sickening smell, there's no question about that, and I can see why citizens say that you can't really stay in your house if it's going on around you.
The product smelled so bad that my wife and I went to Birmingham and stayed with my daughter and her husband, who lives down there, until the stench went away because it got into our home. We had people to come in and clean the inside of our house to get the smell out.
I mean, it is a noxious odor. It's a public nuisance by definition, I would say.
It's embarrassing when you have a reunion, which we have quite a bit here, our company, and you go outside and the people smell the odor. And if it's somebody that's new that's come, you explain to them what it is and they're perplexed. They have no idea what you're talking about.
12 weeks of rotten stench, 24 hours a day. That's the difference between that and normal fertilizer.
I have my BS degree from Auburn University in animal science. After I graduated from Auburn, I got a job working for a poultry plant here locally. My career pretty much has been around food safety. So when I found out that this company was going around and offering fertilizer that was really considered a solid waste, I was shocked. I belonged to a Facebook group, and on that group they had posted a video that was from Sherry Saunders.
So for you folks that are watching, I need for you to be aware of some of the things that are happening here. So what's happening at what used to be my farm, right next to my house? These two gentlemen works for a company, Storm Services LLC, out of Gadsden. They subcontract with another company that works for Tyson Foods over here at the dog food plant in Huntsville, Alabama. That black sludge that I've been reporting on for years, the dangers of it, has now just been dumped right next to my house. We'll try to get to a better area so we can get some really good photos, so you can get a really good idea of the poison that's being dumped on the ground. This is the black sludge. Get some of that sludge right there. Oh, wow. Check that out.
Nasty. I smell it right here.
I can't describe to you the smell.
Look at that.
And these poor sons of bitches has got himself sucked.
Oh my goodness, when you come off of 278 and 79, it's almost like, am I coming into a dead vacuum or something? It was terrible. Almost to the point that you needed an oxygen mask. I'm a soil scientist, I do environmental stuff, and I love it. I have a passion for it.
One of the people I called was Cleo.
She called me, wanted to know if I would be interested in what was going on.
I knew he had a camp on Big Spring Creek.
Our mission is to train kids to think and to understand that they are part of the environment. Even though we're humans, we are part of the environment.
I was concerned about the kids getting into the creek and potentially getting contaminated with E. coli or salmonella.
We talked and shared information and things like this and attended a couple of meetings. But our thinking was there's more to it than just the smell.
The combination of chemicals and chicken byproducts called chicken sludge is raising concerns in North Alabama.
People in Marshall County want to make it known that while the smell is awful, the problems with this sludge are much more serious than just a bad stench. I'm holding several complaints filed in North Alabama from June to September of this year, all saying they are concerned with this so-called chicken sludge.
We learned about it through the frequency of complaints that we would get from members of the public. It seemed like a month didn't go by that someone would call us and say, they're spreading this material near my property. There's noxious fumes and odors. I don't know what it is. Can you investigate and tell us what this is? I mean, we get calls sometimes and people say, they're spreading chicken parts next to me. And we say, what, you mean like manure? And they say, no, man, I mean like beaks and feathers.
It scares me that this is going on and there's not enough regulation involved in it and that we don't really know what is happening. Everybody was just making speculations about what is that crazy, terrible smell.
Is it legal, was the question we would get a lot. Well, the answer was that it probably is not legal if it's being done the way that you're describing it. We believe that there is a lot of land application and material that's going on that is not in compliance with law and regulations.
That's the big question, I think, is what is in it? You don't really know.
So what happens is all of us, when we flush the toilet or run something down the sink, it goes into a wastewater treatment plant, and the water is treated to remove things like bacteria and pathogens and other pollutants, and then the water is discharged into a river or stream, and what's left in the wastewater treatment plant is really nasty stuff called sewage sludge, and that's what biosolids are.
The biosolids, two things can happen to it. You can either landfill it or you can spread it as fertilizer on agricultural fields, and they call that a beneficial use byproduct. Landfill, of course, is more expensive. They have to pay tipping fees, so if they can spread it as fertilizer, they offer it free most of the time to farmers, and it's a waste disposal for them, and they don't have to pay landfill fees for it.
So there's sort of a business model about this where people approach people with farmland and say, I have some free fertilizer for you. And one of the big problems is if it's not done pursuant to a really careful and scientific plan, what it ends up being is just a public open dump of waste material.
I'm concerned about over time how effective benefits versus damage to a particular soil site.
The EPA, this is the self-audit that they did in November of 2018.
They had found 352 separate pollutants in biosolids. Right now, there's only a requirement to test for 10 of those.
Pollutants found in biosolids can include pharmaceuticals, steroids, and flame retardants. So out of the 352 pollutants, it includes 61 designated as acutely hazardous, or priority pollutants in other programs. But yet, they continue to allow this to happen today. As far as checks and balances, there's kind of some checks and balances. They're called the EPA 503s, and they only test for 10 heavy metals and 4 biologicals. That's it.
It's been pretty widely recognized in the scientific community that those limits are inadequate and need to be updated. They're 25 years old, and so they really don't adequately test even for biosolids. The Alabama regulations, frankly, at the insistence of powerful industrial companies in the state, go beyond that, and they would allow land application of what they call byproducts, which are barely even defined in the regulations, but would include things like coal ash or chemical waste or chicken sludge, things that aren't covered by federal biosolids regulations, and in fact are scarcely tested at all, and about which there's basically no set of scientific data to know what's in those materials.
There's no telling what all is in this. If you don't test for it, you don't know. And that's exactly what's happening.
You can't convict them before they understand what they're being convicted of. So that is the beginning, is testing what's in that material.
I don't think that the landowners are aware at all of what's in this, because how could they be when the companies that are producing it don't know?
My grandfather bought this property for 25 cents an acre. I was born on this farm. I've lived here all my life. I will not be leaving this farm until my death. The pond was perfect until the chicken waste from the poultry company had been distributed on the farm next door. And after a huge rain, it washed those chemicals into my lake and it killed the lake. At that time, Mr. Ramsey, who is on the county commission, came talk to me because he had had multiple complaints of the smell and all, and asked me if I'd had any problems.
He said the top of the water was white with fish. Like I said, I'm the advocate for those people. We went to Montgomery, we went to the ADEM meeting, tried to get some people to understand what was going on and put some stops on this before this, was happening widespread.
Mr. Ramsey went to Montgomery and talked to a group of people and gave me a phone number to call. And I called and I asked to make an appointment to come down and talk. I said, you tell me when you want me to come and I'll be there. And he hesitated for a minute and kind of blew and said, sir, I'm tied up for the next 2 years, and hung the phone up.
I didn't feel like we got good representation at ADEM. I felt like it had already been decided before we got there.
This is a multifaceted issue, and I just couldn't believe this was happening. There was a lot of gaps: biosecurity risk, food safety risk, environmental risk, human health risk. I started questioning the top people that I knew that worked for my company and asking them, what are our thoughts on this? I found out that the company I worked for actually promotes this practice. As I mentioned, we're in poultry country. Speaking out against this, I put a nail in my coffin for ever working for a poultry industry again. One of my neighbors that lives right across the way there, she called me and she was complaining about this. I said, great, come to the ADEM meeting with me. Let's write comments. And she's like, oh, I can't. I might get fired from my job. And people they want it stopped, but they're scared. Commissioners, in my opinion, you are currently reviewing the regulations that are historic. Your names will forever be attached to these regulations. With all due respect, are you going to ignore the massive amount of science that negates the fertilizing capabilities of beneficial use by products? The owners of the company that I mentioned before have master's degrees in business, not natural resources. I have observed that they are more concerned with making money than to providing soil amendments to our farmers. People like this will continue to take advantage of the potential loopholes in our laws. What is your stance? Some farmers that are proponent of using the sludge are not aware of the risk or ignore the risk. As common statement from the users of the sludge say, it's perfectly legal, and if it wasn't good for the land, the government wouldn't allow it. They're relying.
Ms. Lair, you're well over your time limit.
Yes, sir. If I drove 3 hours here and took a vacation day to be here.
You should have practiced maybe a little bit more.
I did.
Take another 30 seconds.
They weren't down there just stomping their feet and hammering their fists down saying, I don't like this. They brought forth very legitimate, well-educated, well-thought-out, well-researched concerns. And then ADEM said, well, we think it's okay. And that was about the end of it. And I don't think it's okay.
I personally am very disheartened at this point, the way the people in official offices in the state of Alabama and government offices in the state of Alabama have acted so nonchalant about this problem.
We all know that there needs to be a balance between industry and environment. One cannot overpower the other. And when you do have the industry overpower natural resources, that's where it gets very dangerous.
So they're sitting there weighing their profits compared to our problem.
I'm a proponent of business. Business is what drives Alabama, but we have to have a balance.
To get involved, first you really need to read the ADAM regulations on the biosolid application. It's just 7 pages. Know those regulations if you're having this applied to you. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's absolutely true. So it's very important to document, document, document. And also you've got to file those complaints with ADAM, file your complaints with EPA. At the very least, you're creating a paper trail and you're holding them accountable to respond to you. So all you do is you go to ADAM's website. It's adam.alabama.gov. Over to the right, there's a complaints button. So just tap on the complaints. It gives a little description of what to do. You can add images if you have them, which would be great, and you do that here. And then you hit submit. And that's easy as that. And EPA has a very similar website that you go to.
That's the only thing that can change this, is people speaking out, because that's what changes policy. And we don't need to turn around in 10 to 15 years and realize that we have really messed up the river system here, because the river system in Alabama is a huge part of our state.
Alabama needs to understand that good soil is limited.
I saw a good depiction on one of the Riverkeepers websites. It had all the rivers and creeks and tributaries in Alabama, and it looked like veins going through a body.
My lake drains into Dry Creek. Dry Creek runs into Little Canoe Creek. Then Little Canoe Creek runs into Big Canoe Creek. Big Canoe Creek runs into Coosa River.
The rivers are lifeblood to the land and to the people that live on it, and we've got to protect them.